Hey, CERN, it's
Hi,
exciting.
Randy.
It's exciting. It's exciting. It's exciting. We're going to get back into the green again today.
It looks like it. We're nearly there now.
Yes, yes. So the profit takers have taken their profit, and now we're off to the races again. I was even surprised that there was that much negative activity this morning on the markets and on Tesla because the news is like, they
Stock doesn't care about the news.
don't care about the news. Oh,
No.
oh, not at all.
Traders be trading and sellers be selling.
I see. Oh, you're another one of those, huh? I noticed that Stephen Mark Ryan was mimicking uh, Larry Goldberg's, admonition that you don't have a clue. Nobody has any idea of why the stocks go up and why they go down. So don't believe anybody like Randy Kirk who says he has some kind of an idea. He didn't actually use my name in vain, but so now you're joining that crew, huh?
Well, people like to say there's one thing. Today, the stock market went up because of this.
Yes, yes.
Tomorrow, it went down because of that. I don't buy that.
So Brian Wang and I, yesterday night, we did 14.
I saw that.
Did you see that? Yeah, 14 reasons why it went up yesterday.
I don't know why you couldn't come up with 15. I mean, that's a failing on your part, but 14 was a good start.
So I agree with you that there's rarely one thing, but the headline makers, they need something for the headline.
That's right. And that's why it has to be one thing because headlines
That's,
aren't deep enough to have more than one thing.
yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh, well, oops. No, I want to put down here. I need to change this to more than one participant. See here, allow. Here we go. All right. So Zoom has changed all the settings. And so it's I'm old and you can't teach an old dog new tricks or something. I'm very slow at that now. Anyway, are you ready to show us what you think about what's going on right now?
I am.
Okay.
And Randy, I'm here to report that it's happening. Here's an image from Giga Texas. This is almost live.
Almost
Hundreds of Cybercabs in the lot.
hundreds.
Yeah.
How many of them have steering wheels?
All of these do.
All have steering wheels.
Yes.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's bizarre.
Now, it's not April 1st, but it's still April, so this is a bit of a joke by Tesla
Oh,
Chan. He says he just pasted several images of the Cybercab uploaded by Joe Techmeyer. So here's the actual image.
I see. All right.
And
Okay.
he took the liberty of expanding it. But this is foreshadowing, Randy, of things to come.
I see. I see. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's how believable this image is.
Yeah. Yeah. I believe it. If you
Yep.
did it, I believe it. Sure.
It's coming. Anyway, that'll be exciting when we see that many, but these days we're seeing 50 or 60 a day,
Okay. Yep.
which is good for engineering test prototype vehicles.
Right. Hmm.
So that's good. And it's a beautiful shot, by the way.
Yeah.
All right, with that shenanigans out of the way, here's the disclaimer.
Okay. More
So
shenanigans.
we do have some other really interesting things, and that's more hiring.
Oh.
We've got these data collection supervisor roles for self-driving,
Okay.
and it's under the job category of engineering and information tech.
Huh.
And this one happens to be in San Francisco.
Okay.
And Tesla is looking for a high intensity action oriented leader to accelerate our vehicle level testing by supporting and coordinating local operations, assisting with troubleshooting and incident reporting as needed. There won't be any incidents. This position requires willingness to adapt and excel in a dynamic, fast-paced environment.
Hmm.
This position will be responsible for maintaining excellent data collection through both management of a team of vehicle operators and individual excellence in all testing tracks. Pretty vague, but basically you do what Elon asks you to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
The role requires flexibility of traveling to domestic or international destinations as necessary.
Oh. Oh.
How's that for an added bonus?
Yeah.
Day, afternoon, and night positions are available. So this is a 24-hour thing. Who knew they would run a robotaxi network 24 hours?
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
They can even
Uh,
run it. They probably have to run it in the snow, but San Francisco doesn't get much snow.
right. That's correct. So anyway, it goes on about what they'll do. There's also a similar post, really exactly the same thing. This
Okay.
is the one for Washington, D.C.
Okay.
But the job category now is under Tesla AI instead of the previous one, which was engineering and information tech.
Oh,
I don't know if there's any difference,
yeah.
but the job description was exactly the same.
Okay.
And it turns out that there's 34 locations
Oh,
hiring for these positions. So we've seen job postings before for various,
right.
what we think is roles in terms of robotaxi.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the first page. Here's the second page. And here's the third page.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what I did then was this was a month ago
Okay.
when I was sort of looking at, what would it take for Tesla to have robotaxi in enough cities, enough locations where it could potentially reach effectively 50% of the US population.
Right, right.
Not that they would have enough vehicles initially to be able to serve 170 some million people,
Mm-hmm.
but would they have a presence in those markets, which is what Elon had talked about a few months ago.
Right.
And at the time, I drew up this chart and I showed how much population, what cities they would need to be in order to get to about 50%.
Mm-hmm.
And then I showed where Tesla had been hiring. And then I marked in green cities where I thought, well, if they could add these cities,
Mm.
and that would get them, if they did that, that would get them to the 50%, but
Right.
they weren't currently there.
Okay.
And lo and behold, Randy, with these latest job openings, all of these cities that I highlighted in green, except for two, I believe,
Okay.
were included.
All right.
The two that were not included were Ohio and then Portland, the Portland, Vancouver, Salem area in Oregon.
Okay.
And it was Cleveland, Ohio that I had, but it could have easily been Columbus or Cincinnati. So those two are not yet. We haven't seen job hirings yet in those locations, as far as I know.
Okay.
Okay, so here's what the new table looks like. At this time, with the green cities as the ones that were added. These are
Mm.
job
Mm.
openings that we haven't seen before, I believe, in these cities.
Okay.
Okay, and I further broke this down by MSA, uh, the metropolitan statistical area,
I see.
versus CSA, and I'm forgetting off the top of my head what that means, but it's a larger area. If you think of MSA as kind of being the metro area, and then the CSA is kind of outlying areas where people might commute
Mm-hmm.
to and from the metro area. So
Right.
it's a little bit broader definition of the
Sure.
city.
Sure.
So, for example, in the Los Angeles area, MSA is about 13.2 million people, but the
Mm-hmm.
CSA is about 18 and a half.
Right. Okay.
Kind of the bigger,
Right.
broader category. So, depending on how you want to slice and dice this, because I've had quite a bit of feedback saying, "Oh, there's not, 5 million people in Seattle. That's like the whole state."
Right.
Well, okay. It just depends on how you define these areas.
Yes. Yes.
So right now, then Tesla essentially, with the hiring, appears to be prepping and getting ready for a presence in what would be about 44 to 52% of the US population.
Hmm.
And of course, they could have more hiring, next week in terms of different areas. So,
Right.
this isn't a static thing. By the way, someone just posted not too long ago, 42 seconds ago, actually,
Okay.
that they saw a couple of cybercabs in Fort Myers, Florida.
Oh,
And Fort Myers is not on
on
any
the
of the
list.
Florida cities here. That west coast of Florida, certainly Tampa would be, but below that you've got Sarasota and Fort Myers and Naples, and there's a lot of population down there too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So there are other cities already that the vehicles are being seen in. And if we're wondering where all these cybercabs that Joe Techmeyer is seeing with the steering wheels and pedals are going, it's going into these locations for testing.
Right.
And that's, I think, a fantastic sign of things to come.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Elon had always mentioned that you kind of want to do a little bit of testing locally just to make sure that, FSD is working perfectly on roads in Florida versus roads in Georgia and other places. They're a little bit different in different locations.
Exactly. Yes.
You get the on-the-ground testing and try to work some issues out. So that's why we're still seeing, a lot of these cars being produced with the steering wheel and
Steering wheel.
pedals that they're needed for testing in these different locations.
Right, right. Okay.
And by the way, it says right here, it's a little too small to see, but it says engineering test prototype vehicle or something on the side here.
Oh, wow.
I forget exactly the wording, but they've labeled it for us
I
in
gotcha.
case we're confused about it. Another beautiful image of Cybercabs with a few Cybertrucks and Model Ys next door there.
So I don't
And
know if
then,
you've heard, I don't know if you've heard that my prediction is that they will start ramping in earnest next Monday.
is that right?
Yeah, because
Right.
it's 420.
That would be good. I was hoping they'd have an event on 420 ahead of the earnings call, but
Yeah, yeah,
perhaps not. I think they would need to give us a bit more heads up than that.
yeah, yeah.
Although you never know with Tesla. It could be tomorrow. So then from Joe Techmeyer, he says Cybercab production line work continues and more vehicles seem to be leaving the factory and headed to the outbound lot. Today I saw another 60. This was yesterday that he said this, or April 15th. This time they were spread all over the outbound lot. Some driving the superchargers, others doing test driving, and even more looking to be preparing for transportation off-site. And again, where they're going is these cities where they're hiring these people together, to test them and collect data. So that's why we're seeing so many of these. They're being put to work around the country.
So this goes back to our earlier conversation as to why, everybody wants to know what happened. Why are we waiting 4 months after what Elon said, back last year? And it seems to me right now that everything is coming together. So you got the Netherlands decision, you've got, positive folks in DC, ready to act. You've got all these cybercabs being made and the testing happening, the people being hired. You have one accident out of, maybe you're going to report on this, I'm not sure. Only one accident out of the last February, all of February and half of March between the two areas. I mean, everything seems to be zeroing in. That's why I'm predicting 420.
Good prediction. I'll go with it. I look forward to your revision late in the day on 420. Yeah.
I made sure that everybody knew that this is one of those predictions that's not, I don't want to be counted. I don't want it to be counted against me. Yeah.
Either for you or against you. Yeah. No, it's a good date. It would be a shame to let that date pass and
I
not have something
know.
happen.
I know.
Yeah. Other happenings at Giga Texas, Joe is sending us lots of images of Cortex 2.0. He's calling it Optimus University.
Okay.
And so the crews are now preparing the second part of the Megapack installation with platforms, beams, scaffolding, and more ahead of the Megapack arrival. And he says once completed, there will be around 250 Megapacks at this one installation. And that'll be in addition to the 140 other Megapacks already at Giga Texas.
Mm.
So just a look at that. So here's Cortex 2, this big building here.
Yeah.
And here's the Megapacks that they've already installed. And now they're working on installing Megapacks all the way down here.
Mm.
So they've got quite a bit of work to go. And here's another angle of it. And I'd love to see the Cybertruck being used on the construction site. This is nice. This should be a requirement, I think, for all the subcontractors to drive Cybertrucks.
Right, of course.
And then this is the other side of the building where the cooling fans are, and there's some Megapacks hiding here too.
Yeah.
So, when they started building these buildings, I thought, wow, there's a lot of space between them, but now it sure looks pretty tight. They've used up all that extra space.
Well, we just need factories all over the country and world to look at this picture and go, oh, I see.
Yeah. That's right. They'll get it eventually.
Yeah.
What's this, Randy?
It's a car up on a lift. Yeah. I don't know.
This is a very special car.
Okay.
This Tesla has been driven 800,000 kilometers,
800,000
which is
kilometers.
about
I
half a
think
million miles.
500,000, yeah.
Zero defects, passed inspection again.
Hmm.
Tesla Model S.
Hmm.
You know, the toy that was supposed to die after a few years.
Right.
No engine rebuild, no oil changes, no emissions drama, just driving,
Nice.
right? And and so I think he's in Austria.
Hmm.
Um, and I think Elon reposted this. But you know, impressive.
Yeah. Yeah. And of course,
Um,
these people in cold climates, they don't drive these cars.
right. That's right. Well, I wish this next image was different.
Uh-oh.
This was actually taken by my wife at my kid's school. So here we are in the heart of Austin, and the bumper sticker reads, this car is smarter than its CEO." Anyway, yeah.
Is he CEO again? Because he was uh king of tech king or something like that.
Techno King or something.
Techno king, yeah. So maybe she's got the wrong person.
Maybe,
Yeah.
maybe. Anyway, um, I thought this was a good point by Brett Winton. He says the annual social cost of cancer and auto accidents are very roughly equivalent. Imagine a new cancer drug came out that reduced mortality by 90% across every cancer. And the AMA aggressively lobbied against it because of its potential suppressive impact on hospital visits and surgeries. And he says that's what the unions are doing to autonomous robotaxis right now.
It's not just the unions, and it's not just the United States. I mean, it was just shocked today to have South Korea go, well, the Netherlands did their thing, but we got to do our thing, and Ireland, well, yeah, we're taking it under advisement, but Tesla needs to specifically provide us with their request, because we can't just do it from the Netherlands make post. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Oh, you guys, come on.
And then was it Sweden saying that maybe we would apply to new vehicles, not
Yeah,
existing
only
ones?
new vehicles.
Do they not understand what a software update does, Randy? Yeah.
Oh, nutty. Absolutely nutty.
James Dalma added to this, and he says, interesting framing, but it's actually worse than this.
Oh,
With cancer, the median victim is 73, whereas the median car accident victim is 35.
oh,
If you're anti-self-driving, you're arguing for more widows and more orphans
yeah,
and far more people in wheelchairs.
yeah. Yeah, because actually what nobody reports is not everybody reports the 40,000 roughly, I guess it is, 36,000 that die every year just in the United States. But it's 170,000 people who have life-altering injuries.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, it's a staggering number. And of course, also I mean, the people in the vehicles, they have injuries, and the people that they
right,
hit.
right, have injuries. Yeah.
Yep, all part of it. Uh, Vehicle sales, do we care about this anymore? But here's Q1. Tesla's market share in Q1 was 54%, up from 43 a year ago.
Uh-huh.
Now, the sales did go down 8.4%,
Uh-huh.
but if you look at most other EV brands, quote unquote,
Uh-huh.
they had even larger declines. Um, the next largest one on here is barely over 10,000. We've got Chevrolet, 13,000, down from 19. We've got the Hyundai holding steady at around 12,500. Rivian up 21, good for them, to
Hmm.
10,365. That's great. Toyota seems to be, here's the Tesla killer. Toyota's surging ahead, up 79%. Lucid, I think, was up 3.5%, 2,500 vehicles.
Hmm. Well, that's probably their new CEO.
Could be.
Oh, I guess he's only been on the job for a couple of days, so maybe not.
So just updating my events, milestones, and catalyst chart.
Oh,
We do have FSD 14.3 rollout. It's, in
yeah,
the early stages.
yeah.
We don't have the Cybercab start of production yet. I'm not calling that yet. We do have supervised Europe approval in one one place. So I
Yep.
didn't put a check, but I did put a green box.
Okay. Okay.
So we're kind of heading in that direction.
Right.
And again, this is a Q2 thing, so hopefully we get more in Q2. But as you said, there might be some hiccups along the way. So there's that. And then we had the production deliveries report. And of course, there's all these other things that we're anticipating are still on the docket here.
Right. Right. So we're also not officially having a semi ramp yet. I'd like to see you know, what would you consider a ramp? 2 a day, 3 a day? What do you think? What do you think we would say? Okay, it's on.
Well, I think just, yeah, an increased cadence of semis coming out of the factory certainly would be
Mhm.
a good sign. The video that came out was last week that showed a little bit of the inside of the semi factory. It looks like they still had a little ways to go.
Actually, but that video was old.
How old was it?
It's like a
Maybe a
month,
month?
like a month. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I've got started production for semi here in Q3.
Oh, you do? Okay. Ah,
Maybe it's actually earlier than this. We'll
yeah.
see.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, they were clearly, it looked like they were making some already in that factory.
Hmm.
So anyway, so that's good.
Yes. Yes.
We have a international patent published today, uh, April 16th, for Optimus version 3 robot hands.
Yeah.
And the patent describes a tendon/cable driven hand, actuators in the forearm. Each finger has 4 degrees of freedom. The wrist has 2 degrees of freedom. The tendon driven system, 3 thin flexible control cables per finger run from forearm actuators through the wrist and into the fingers. Advanced wrist routing. Cables switch from a lateral horizontal stack on the forearm side to a vertical stack on the hand side, plus a transition zone to minimize stretch, torque, friction, and crosstalk during yaw and pitch movements. And then integrated control cable channels in the finger segments and precise routing behind some joints, forward others for selective bending. And here's the patent screen. And for those that speak French, here's a nice little paragraph for you down here. Here's a little bit of a close-up of the hand, drawing anyway.
So that description is it it creates a mind picture of some kind of complexity that you wouldn't even be able to like truly engineer it. It would be something that I suppose if you use AI, maybe it could help you, but it's almost like you have to just do it, see how it works, and go, oh, we need to move this and do it, and then oh, but now that means we have to. I mean, it seems like this would have been like a that type of lab experiment.
It'd be a bit of trial and error involved, I'm
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Um, Here's a close-up of the finger.
Okay. Would you give that to somebody?
No,
No,
never.
never.
Um, yeah. Now, speaking of robots, Randy, you know how in the past we've come up with potential use cases for robots?
Oh, yes, we should go back over that sometime.
We should, but
Yeah.
warehouses and factories and,
Yeah.
and hospitals and all kinds of things,
Right.
homes.
Right.
Here's a use case that I did not think of that actually could be pretty important.
Okay.
So we have a video of a humanoid robot chasing wild boars in Poland.
Chasing. Well,
Here's the robot. Here's the boars in the darkness of night causing havoc in the city.
I see.
And they've unleashed the robot to chase them away. And he just runs at them. And the boars have never had this before.
Right.
So what do? Well, they take to their scrapers and they disappear back into the forest. And he's chasing after them full speed. Here he is cutting across the grass, running across the parking lot. And you can just see the shadows of the boars here in the distance. Here's the forest. And as they run into the forest, he waves goodbye,
He waves goodbye.
puts up a hand and waves to them. So
Well,
here's a use case I never thought of. This could
nope,
sell
nope.
millions of robots just
Yeah,
getting rid of nuisances around the city.
exactly. Yeah. I have a few boars I'd like him to chase away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, that led me down to a whole rabbit hole of the boar problem in the United States and what we're doing to try to eradicate them. I'll spare you the details here, but it's, yeah.
I see. I see.
This was interesting. This is a visualization of all the power sources in the world.
Hmm.
And you can see here in Canada, this is hydro. This is particularly Quebec, a lot of
Hmm.
hydropower, and then it gets transmitted down into the eastern U.S. Here, I'll have a close up of this one in a minute, but it's the sort of natural gas pipelines
Hmm.
and so on. So it's kind of interesting, and you can look at sort of where there's dark spaces, and so there's not a whole lot of activity going on there, right?
Yeah.
Um, and interesting, a big chunk of Mexico, not a whole lot happening.
Right.
Um, Here is across the world here, these are the undersea fiber
Ah.
optic lines.
Ah.
It's a little hard to see in this image, but they're crisscrossing the oceans everywhere.
Yeah.
And then we get to Europe and we see lots of fiber. Um, of course, instead of running it, across the countries, they run it through the oceans. So it's kind of interesting how that goes. But and then you can see Russia here. There's not a whole lot going on in certain places,
Hmm. Hmm.
and a lot of density in Europe, obviously, and then of course in Africa, how dark that is.
Yeah.
Um, Here's the African
Hmm.
continent. A little
Hmm.
bit more activity down here in South Africa.
Right.
Here we go to India
Mm.
and starting to see a little bit of China.
Hmm. Hmm.
There's a lot of hydro, it looks like, in Russia here, or Mongolia. No, I guess Mongolia's here, so this would be Russia.
Hmm.
Here's kind of focus on China and look at the activity here and the massive hydro power plants they have.
Right. Right.
And then, of course, I have to include Australia and New Zealand
Of course.
and the vast amount of Australia where there is nothing going on at all. Um, and here's South America. And it makes sense in Brazil to have a lot of hydro.
Right. Right.
Um, this was interesting. This is we focus on the Gulf of America,
Hmm.
all of the natural gas pipelines
Hmm.
coming out of the Gulf.
Hmm.
So it's an amazing website that shows the infrastructure, and you can zoom into an incredible detail on this site.
Hmm. Hmm.
These are all very zoomed out images, obviously, that I'm sharing here.
Yeah. Very cool.
It's very cool. Anyway, so speaking of energy,
Hmm.
the question is, Randy, what is true currency? Do you know the answer to this question?
We've talked about that a lot.
We have. And according to Elon, time is the true currency,
Time. Okay.
energy is the true currency,
Yeah. Yeah.
and the true currency is steadfast friendship. And
Yes.
and Natalie says, "What's the true currency?" And Elon says, "All of the above." So apparently we have three currencies, Randy.
Okay. That's fair.
Friendship, time, and energy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Sounds reasonable.
I think so. I think all three of those would count. Sure.
Hmm. Certain things you can't pay for with friendship, some things you can. Certain things you can't pay for with time, other things you can. So yeah, it's interesting. All right. Changing topics completely. The VIX, speaking of energy and time, we've had a 38% decline in the VIX over the last 2 weeks. It's the
Yeah.
seventh biggest volatility crash in history.
So wait a minute. Do we have to have a new VIX, a VIX 2 to to chart the volatility of the VIX?
Well, that would just be the acceleration or the deceleration of it. Yeah. The second derivative of VIX.
Right.
Um, so anyway, is sometimes as fast as volatility goes up, it can come down quickly too. And you can
Right.
see when it does that, the forward returns on the S&P have been pretty good.
Yeah. Yes.
There has not been, in this example, a negative 2-year forward return. There was one case where there was 6 months and 1 year it was negative.
Hmm.
But if you look at that over the 3 years and 4 years after that, it was pretty nice, up 35 and almost 55% respectively.
Hmm.
But on average, these 20 biggest 2-week declines have seen a 1 year forward return of 17%, 2 year return of 31, a 3 year return of 46, a 4 year return of 68%, and a 5 year return of almost 100%.
Wow.
So, uh,
So is there an accepted number? I've been wondering this, and you might be the guy to ask. Is there kind of an accepted number of balance on the VIX between risk on and risk off?
I think different people have different sort of
Okay.
metrics for that, but and like you said, a lot of people look at the acceleration and deceleration
Right.
of it.
Right.
I'm not an expert on the VIX.
Okay.
I look at it every now and then just to kind of
Hmm.
see what it's telling us or what it's saying, but it's not something I'm particularly focused on because of this very reason that it can spike up very quickly
Right.
and then it can go down just as quick.
Yeah. So of course I report on it every morning. And so now I've been reporting on the VIX every morning for about a year. So, after doing that every morning for a year, you start to get some kind of analytics going. It seems like 18 might be kind of the middle. Like if you're at 11 or 12, for sure you're risk on. 13, 14. If it's 20, 25, 30, it's risk off. So it seems like somewhere around 18 might be the fulcrum.
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with you. I do have all the data. I just don't pay that close attention to
Right.
it. Um, and then this chart, oh, sorry, here's a closer up of that. Make it a little easier for people to see.
Hmm.
And then here's S&P 500 corrections of greater than 5% since the financial crisis, March 2009 low.
Okay.
So we've had quite a few. There's 26 of them on this list.
Hmm.
They've
Hmm.
averaged 7.6% declines. This latest one was 9.8%
For the S&P.
for the S&P. And last year we had two declines. One was down 5.8% in October through November timeframe, and then there was a February to April time decline last year of down 21.3%. Um, so, all perfectly normal, all things for the market to work out, and typically it does and bounces right back.
Hmm. Hmm.
And here we are at all-time highs again.
Right.
We're jumping around a little bit, but this is interesting. This is federal government's receipts and spending
Mm.
for the fiscal year of 2026. So it started on October of 2025.
Hmm.
So it's 6 months, and we're already at a deficit of about 1.2 trillion, receipts of about 2.5 trillion, and spending of about 3.65. So we take in income taxes of about 1.2 billion.
Hmm.
Sorry, that's trillion, 1.2
Trillion,
trillion.
trillion. Yeah.
Social insurance and retirement receipts of about 875 billion. Customs duties, tariffs of 166 billion. Corporate income taxes of 116 billion. Why do we even bother?
Yeah.
Excise taxes of 45 billion. Estate and gift taxes of 20 billion, and miscellaneous 15 billion. That's parking tickets, I suppose. So that wouldn't be federal money. That would be city money. And then, of course, you look at what we spend the money on. Social Security gets 818 billion.
Hmm.
Net interest is the second biggest line item at almost half a trillion or over half a trillion, 519 billion. Health costs, half a trillion. Medicare, half a trillion. National defense, almost half a trillion. Uh, income security, 377 billion. Veterans benefits and services, 200 billion. Education, 88 billion. Transportation, 63 billion, and other, 94 billion.
And this is for the 6.5 months?
This is from October of 2025 through March.
Oh, through March. So just 6 months. Okay.
It's the 6 months.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, it's interesting, isn't it? Because there's a deficit, in this case, 1.2 trillion over 6 months. And what do they do to make up for that? Well, basically, they borrow,
Right.
i.e., print money. So why not just do away with all the taxes and just print money?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Wouldn't that be easier?
It would be regressive. It would impact the poorest people the most.
Well, the system already does.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Only because of Social Security.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's an interesting pickle that we're in, and I think the situation may only get worse if AI starts to create some job loss. Although I know that you've written and spoke about this a lot, there's a lot of opportunity out there for people for jobs. They'll benefit from AI, and that's certainly true.
Yeah,
At
yeah.
least in the next few years, that's looking pretty positive.
Mhm.
Um, and then in the category of crazy things the government does, New York City creates a tax break for buildings under 100 units in 2024.
Okay.
In 2025, developers carve projects into 99 unit pieces to get their buildings under 100. So here's an example here. You've got this building.
Oh,
It's basically one big building, and they carved it into 4 different projects, all with 99 units in it
yeah, of course.
to get the tax break. And so you see then the number of, actually, sorry, I have it expanded here. The number of buildings then that meet this are between 50 and 99 units now have surged to 200 buildings, up from lower levels in the past.
Oh yeah. I mean, this is the first time I'm sure it's happened a million times before, but the first time I ever noticed it was in Germany about 50 years ago. They put out rules, all kinds of rules for companies over 50 employees. And so all of a sudden you found all kinds of companies with 49
Yep.
that were closely related to another company of 49, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, this is normal activity. Yep.
Yep. There's another example of it.
Yep.
If you're interested, Randy, in getting a good deal on SpaceX,
Yeah.
Google's
Nice.
Google shareholders are happy.
Yeah.
Google's stake in SpaceX could be worth more than most companies on the planet, this headline reads. The search giant has a lot to gain from SpaceX's upcoming initial public offering.
Yeah.
So how much? Well,
I,
at a $2 trillion valuation, Google's stake in SpaceX could be worth about 122 billion, which is bigger than Dell, Accenture, Seagate, Spotify, etc.
mhm, mhm.
And even at 1.75 trillion, Google's position would be worth about 107 billion, which is bigger than Adobe, Northrop Grumman, CrowdStrike. Yeah. So a very
So
successful investment.
I raised the issue on my show this morning is we know that Tesla has to mark to market their Bitcoin reserves. Do they have to mark to market stocks in other companies? So therefore, do they have to claim the profits on SpaceX?
Good question. I don't know off the top of my head. Certainly when the company is private, no. And the question is when it goes public and it becomes a public
Oh,
price, do they have to reprice it?
yeah,
Potentially.
yeah,
I don't know, but it's quite possible. And they might report, a big gain in one quarter.
exactly. Yeah.
Um, yeah, good question. I think that's like I'm not an accounting expert, but I probably could look that up and figure that out.
Hmm.
Maybe I'll report back to you next week on that
Okay.
if you haven't determined it by then. Because it's probably just a quick AI search.
Probably.
Yeah. Well, speaking of SpaceX, here's a thing of beauty. We got some beautiful shots this week. Um, and here they are rolling out Starship in the darkness of night. I was just there a few weeks ago, and I was going to share it with you some photos, but these are better. So why bother with mine? These
Well,
are professionally done.
that one looks totally space age. I mean, it looks like something still in the future.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
This is a photo that I wanted to take, but all these Cybertrucks were blocking the sign, so I couldn't get it.
I see.
But you can see if you get a little bit elevated, then you
Yeah.
can get the right angle and get the Starbase sign.
Need to get you a drone.
And of course, when I was there, they didn't have this thing parked on the road. This is the road that you drive on right here
Okay. Yeah.
to get down to the launch pad in
Yeah.
Boca Chica
Yeah.
Beach. So, and then here is the booster rolling by the headquarters of the factory there. So quite a nice shot.
We had some news this morning. Is that on your list of slides?
I don't know if it is.
We had the booster uh,
Yeah.
uh, test their engines, test their 33. Everything went well as far as I could tell.
Yeah.
I only saw one headline on it, but it looked like it was successful.
Yes. And by the way, when a lot of people look at this photo, they may say, "Oh, this is Florida." No, this is southern Texas.
Right.
And that just over here is Mexico. Um, we have a report out by NASA titled Moonbase, Igniting Progress. Moonbase User's Guide. So we're starting to think more seriously about
Hmm.
activities on the moon, and NASA has it all mapped out. This is even an executive summary on this report.
Ah,
Achieving the vision. I won't go through this in detail, but it's quite an interesting report, and you can see just visually sort of what, some artist at least has in mind here. These kind of look like starships.
right.
I don't know if this looks like Jeff Bezos' rocket or not, but they may have included a couple of those just to be equal. Um, so talking about phase one, phase two, phase three, 25 launches in phase one, 27 launches in phase two, 29 in phase three. It says 25 launches and 21 landings. I'm not sure what happens to the other four. They're just going to fly by and drop stuff off.
Or
Um,
stay. Wait, 25 launches. I'm sorry. Do it again.
25 launches in phase one, but only 21 landings on the moon.
Oh, only 21 landings on the moon. Okay. All right.
I
Yeah.
think you just fly by and drop stuff off,
I got it. I
throw it
got
out the window.
it. Parachutes.
Yeah. Um, anyway, it's quite an interesting read. It's not very long. I'm just showing you here basically all the pages really quickly. Um, so it's nice to see that, and they've included this latest photo. Here's one of probably the best photos ever taken
Uh,
of planet Earth.
yeah.
Talking about nuclear technologies, dealing with, the continuous presence of humans. They have to do some research on that on the moon. Dust tolerance, all kinds of issues to think through.
So one of the issues they've been thinking through, I guess, because I saw a headline on this also, though I didn't read the whole article, is that why use any other space company when the reliability, the performance, and the cost are dramatically lower in every single case for SpaceX. And so apparently NASA is beginning to get that with their new leadership, probably part of the reason. Isaacson, yeah. And so they're very seriously thinking about pulling contracts away from some of the existing bid winners and moving them over to SpaceX.
Yeah, that's an interesting challenge, isn't it? Because ideally you'd like to have more than one,
Right.
but the reality is, this is not an ideal situation. It's very costly, and the other companies are just not where SpaceX is in terms of the
Right.
development.
Right.
And there's only so much money to go around. We just went through the budget deficit. It's like, how
Yeah.
much more money do you want to spend? Where's it going to come from?
Yeah.
So I get it. At the end of the day, you have to be practical about this. And if there's only
Mhm.
one company that can do it, then that's who you go with.
Yeah.
Maybe you narrow the scope for some of the other companies for certain things,
Hmm.
or you say, well, if you can prove to us that you can catch up to SpaceX and deliver it at the same cost, then fine, we'll consider you. But until then, we're not going to fund your development.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, again, ideally, you'd like to have more than one.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's that.
That's
Brings us to a
that.
sudden, abrupt end.
A sudden, yeah, for sure. And I don't know if everybody else I'm seeing, we were stacked on top of one another. I don't know if that was just my view or anybody else's view. So now we're where I think we should be. Yeah. So what I guess we haven't heard anything yet. No, we talked about in the green room. Nothing specific yet on SpaceX next launch, the actual launch.
Not that
But
I've heard yet.
sometime in May. In
Yeah.
May, they're talking.
And I'm not super plugged into that, but I haven't seen anything on that yet.
Right, right.
I do get notifications now when Boca Chica Beach closes.
Oh, okay.
When I was down there, I signed up for that. So now I'm getting lots of those messages that it closes and then opens, 12 hours later. Um, but that's not going to tell me in advance necessarily, exactly when the launch is, or it might be too late by
Yeah,
the
yeah,
time the
yeah,
beach
yeah.
closes to know.
Well, not stock advice, but I did want to, come back to this issue of the 100,000 bots out of
Mhm.
Shanghai. Um, if that is, I mean, it's reporting on it from several sources. I mean, we had the vice president over there in China, in Shanghai, saying, "Yeah, we're set up to make Optimus." And then we now have reporting from from Herbert and others that they're shooting for a run rate by the end of the year of 100,000. If they're going to have a run rate by the end of the year of 100,000, and Fremont should be ahead of them in terms of setting up, and has talked about, their eventual total at 1 million. So maybe their run rates at 100,000 by the end of the year. If we have run rates of 200,000 by the end of the year, moving towards over 1 million in 2027, that would seem to be a significant thing. I was practically apoplectic. I was practically having a nervous breakdown about it this morning, thinking about whether I should move some money out of that account over there and put it anyway. Because I've talked about it on the show many times that Tony and I are old, and so the vast majority of our semi-liquid wealth is in really conservative kinds of things. But every once in a while, we'll move some of that, put it into a 401k, and because I don't want to take the taxes now from the 403b when we move it over. So yeah, and then and put it in Tesla. So this morning I was like, maybe it's so that and Robotaxi being like this close. It just seems like a really, really good time to get in.
Could be, although it's interesting with Tesla, this close seems to extend out from time to time. So, I'm keeping my expectations modest, although I think the long-term future is fantastic and we should be super excited about that. I do think it looks like to me all signs are pointing to a fairly aggressive rollout in some new cities, probably coming up fairly soon.
Right.
Again, they've told us in the first half of 2026 that's the case, and by all accounts, that's where they're headed.
Right.
I'm highly encouraged by the fact they're sending engineering test vehicles for Cybercab, basically in every corner of this country.
Right.
That's fantastic.
And then when you add in semi at 50,000 a year, that's going to be at least 15% of current revenues. Tesla's at about 100 billion revenues. This is going to be about 100 billion in current revenues. This will be 15 billion for our semi alone. And I don't think anybody's paying attention to that.
No.
And then the ramp on the latest mega factory or mega block factory. I don't know what they're going to call that one, but so we have and then there's the solar fab and the AI fab, and most of the pundits yesterday were blaming the 8% increase in the stock price yesterday on the AI5 chip. And I'm thinking, no, nobody's paying. Most people aren't paying attention to that at all. But in point of fact, the entire thing was solar fab and the AI and the chip fab. Those are big deals.
Well, they are, and I think, as you know, I calculated a present value of that after the announcement of about $1 trillion.
About $1 trillion, just in present value.
Present value. And the market didn't factor any of that in. In fact, the stock went down after that.
Right.
So yeah, I think eventually you're going to see an awakening to what this means for Tesla and the value that's being created there.
Right. Right.
Ultimately, the value from Terafab is far more than $1 trillion.
Yeah, of course. Yes.
And then, of course, what's the value also of Digital Optimus?
Exactly.
That's again nothing. People have put zero value on that.
Yeah, I was actually thinking I might do it. I was thinking about doing for this weekend, doing a major category projections like I've done in the past before we have our meeting on next Wednesday. It may be time again to throw that up there, and then interestingly, maybe change it after the meeting if there are announcements. But it seems like in my mind this morning, it was like, okay, Elon is fully back. He talked about the fact that he has been for the past, I think it was 6 months, every Saturday has been working on the chips. They did announce another thing I forgot to bring up. They announced the AI 6.5. So the AI 6 will be made by Samsung. The AI 6.5 will be made by TSMC over in Arizona.
Mm.
And it will be uh, already, beyond what they're expecting on AI 6. So each one will be subsequently better than the previous.
Yeah, and we're hearing rumors about, with Terafab reaching out to the entire semiconductor supply chain and getting everybody on board and getting
Yeah,
things ordered as quickly as possible. And
yeah.
Elon's looking to speedrun that project to the extent that he can.
Elon speed. Yeah. Well, he
Yeah.
talked about, I think he said 2 to 2.5 years.
Which is very quick.
Very quick. Well, we have multiple people out this morning saying 5 years, 4.5 to 5 years. But then the question was asked in one of those articles, well, who is it that could do it faster? Who would you think maybe would get it done sooner? So,
The only one guy I can think of, and Jensen at NVIDIA has praised Elon, I don't know how many times, about their build out in Memphis
oh
for
yeah,
the
yeah.
XAI data center.
There was also a headline this morning, which was kind of interesting, that this terafab thing is starting to impact NVIDIA stock. That the size of it,
Mm.
the the fact that it is a narrow chip that is specifically designed for what it's supposed to do, and then the AI 6, and then Dojo starting back up again. That was announced yesterday. The project is back on. So there was, you know, a signal that maybe a little bit will be pulled away from NVIDIA because of that.
It was interesting. I listened to a part of an interview that Jensen did with, is it Darwish? And he was asking Jensen about the rise of TPUs and Amazon's Trainium chips. And Jensen basically said, well, if it wasn't for Anthropic, those would be dead in the water. It's all one company
Yeah,
that's using those.
right.
Um, and so his point was, NVIDIA still gives people the best total cost of ownership by far.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that, according to Jensen, the rest of the AI world, if you take out Anthropic, which granted is a major player,
Right,
but
right. Yes.
take out that one company, then it's all on NVIDIA. Um, Certainly long term, I suppose that Tesla could be a threat to NVIDIA.
Mhm.
But the amount of AI infrastructure that needs to be built
Yeah,
before we really need to worry about that is a colossal amount.
right, right. Yeah, and I give them a ton of credit for their vertical integration, what they're doing with the layers on top of the basic hardware.
Mhm.
So yeah, I don't think they're in any danger. But the whole thing about NVIDIA has always been, and this was brought up again last week, is people are saying with software companies and with NVIDIA, it's really hard to see beyond 4 years. It's hard to get a grasp on whether they'll continue to accelerate, whether they wouldn't
Mm.
have margin collapse, 3 to 4 years out. And if you have either a reduction in the growth, which seems likely, or you have any kind of margin collapse, either one of those would drop you're already kind of low PE, 50, 45. Maybe it's a little higher now because it went back up almost to 200. But anyway, you'd have, that could have a pretty big impact. Whereas with Tesla, the thing that we feel like we have is a 20-year view. And
Yes.
you have all kinds of really good analysts out there talking about Tesla 2035, Tesla 2040, with clarity about things like Robotaxi and Optimus and whatnot.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because once you build, 100 million robots, billion robots, you can easily find use cases for that.
Yeah,
And you can easily see how Tesla could continue to generate revenue, particularly if the robots are not just sold, if they're robots as a service or if they're leased or something like that, where
right,
there's
right.
kind of ongoing revenue. That's sort of my preferred model for Tesla with this.
Yeah,
Elon, in a response to one of my posts, I think it's over a year ago now, mentioned that they would pursue both.
yeah,
There are companies out there that are used to buying things. They don't really want to lease things. So we'll see how that evolves. But to
yeah.
me,
So
it makes sense that you just rent it out. If the robot needs replacing and you
yeah,
just put in a new robot and you don't,
right.
you know,
And I think you and I are around the same number now. Around 100,000 a year would seem to be something that people would pay for sure, which would be one-fourth of what you would pay somebody that if you have four shifts.
Oh,
Uh,
for business, that's a no-brainer.
that's a
Yes.
no-brainer. Yeah,
Yeah.
for 100,000 as compared to 400,000.
Yeah.
And then if you wanted to buy it outright, at least 400,000. And then
Yeah.
people say, well, yeah, but there's all these other companies. Well, none of them are going to have the capabilities of this one. And let's say for fun, Figure had the capabilities, which is probably the one that has the best chance of having something on the order of the same capabilities. Still, you're talking about years before you start to even dig into 1% of the TAM.
Yeah.
And the people that have four shifts, I think, will be willing to pay the most, and maybe there's a bidding war for things like grocery stores and warehouse stores and fast food stores and manufacturers who have four shifts.
Well, it's interesting because as I look at you, over your right shoulder is an Optimus sitting on the shelf and another one in a box.
Right.
And over my shoulder is a few Optimus working on Starship there.
Right.
And one working on Cybercab, by the way. Don't want to forget that.
Right. Right.
Those Optimus are pretty cheap, and they're cheap for a reason because they don't do anything.
Right.
They just sit there.
Yes. Yes.
So there will be all kinds of price points for robots, but it's
Yep.
all going to be based on their capability.
Sure.
So these are examples of a very low capable robot
Right.
that's not worth much other than a toy value. There'll be plenty of other robots like the one that we saw chasing wild boars out of a city
Right.
that all they can do is run and not much else. But that's useful.
Yeah.
If you
And
want to scare away,
it might be worth 30 grand or 40 grand. Who knows?
sure. If you
Yeah.
think about all the crops that are destroyed by birds, we'll just have a robot running around the fields all day,
Yeah.
whatever it takes,
Yeah.
scaring wild boars and other things. Um, if you have a problem with kids walking on your lawn, you just have a robot out there scaring them away.
Yeah, I'm forgetting his name all of a sudden. Anyway, in some of the earliest reporting, we talked about security guards. It's a really easy, it seems like that would be one of the easiest tasks, and one that would be, in huge demand.
Well, just to
Warren,
have
Warren,
even just
Warren,
as a mobile camera, just that walks around.
right.
But
Incredible.
and of course, it can also do stuff, which is also extra useful. Makes it more valuable if it can actually do something.
Right,
If it finds a hole in the fence and it can actually fix the fence,
right, right.
that's
Or,
more useful than just being a camera that's walking around.
or shoot the intruder.
Well, that's a different level, but yes.
And by the way, giving him credit, Warren Redlick was the name that didn't immediately come to mind. Yeah. So, all right. Well, hey, CERN, I think we'll wrap it up. I have this sense from earlier conversations that you may have other places to be and things to do. But if you guys think that that was valuable and you think that this guy is pretty smart, think about giving him a call. There's, as CERN is, we were talking about this. Were you and I talking about, or somebody else? It's the three people on the channel now four now, that claim to give some kind of direction with regard to making financial decisions. And all four happen to be in the field of how can I take what I now have? Well, three of the four. How can I take what I now have and get some cash flow out of my fixed asset that I don't want to sell in order to support my lifestyle? So, and each one a very different kind of look. I'm sure that you do covered calls if you think that's the right thing. And I'm sure that Bradford probably does some other things besides covered calls, et cetera. But it's interesting that different overview takes, at least in terms of method, but the same goal.
Yeah. No, I think there's lots of different ways of approaching the same problem.
Mm-hmm.
And, I spend most of my time talking people out of hiring, so people that contact us.
Right.
Most people can do this themselves. Not everybody wants to.
Right.
And some people are making mistakes that can be, some cases, easily corrected. In some cases, it's a bit more of a process over a period of time. So there are some reasons to hire advisors. Not everybody needs one. and I'm certainly not here, to to sell myself. I'm here to be a part of the Tesla community, but there are some situations where people do benefit from some of the ideas that we have and some of the approaches.
Right. Right.
And as you mentioned, one, getting income from an investment like Tesla, which doesn't pay any dividends,
Hmm.
and a company that you would otherwise most likely prefer to hang on to for a long period of time.
Right. Right.
But yet many people find that they have this challenge of, I have income needs now.
Yeah.
And how do you solve for that?
Hmm.
And that's an interesting question. You and I have done a couple of shows on some ideas around that,
Right.
and I encourage people to take a look at that. But yeah, there are some things. It's not just a matter of sitting there and hoping that Tesla goes up so
Right.
that you can sell it.
Right.
There's actually things you can do in the meantime
Yeah.
to create a source of income.
Right. Right. Right.
Yeah.
Okay, then, CERN, as always, thank you for your brilliant advice and for your great slideshows. Any last words of wisdom?
Not any words of wisdom, but you and I actually are going to do a show soon on the death of the 60/40 portfolio and the 4% rule.
Both. Oh, 60/40 portfolio and the 4% rule.
Yes,
Wow, I'm
both of
very
them have
excited about
been
this.
have been destroyed.
Yeah. I'm very interested in this. This will be a great show. So this will be either Friday night or Saturday sometime is when that show will come out. So I would highly recommend you tune into that. So you would want to subscribe and then hit notify so you don't miss it. I think I'm very, very interested in the subject and I can't wait to hear your take. So, all right. Thanks again, sir. And to all of you guys out there, it has been great talking to you.
Thanks, Randy.